by fans, for fans, the Hog style. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. A Merry Christmas to you, a Merry Christmas to me, and a Merry Christmas to Steve, who's here on the show again with me this week. Steve, on the first day of Christmas, what did my true love bring to me? Did we get a win?
Your true love brought to you a victory over the Denver Broncos, which is what makes me very happy, and it was a very good Christmas present for us. And,
Yes,
and from all of us at the Hog side, I'd like to wish everybody out there a Merry Christmas, and thanks for another successful year, and thanks for listening to us. We all appreciate it.
Absolutely. Super thankful for you this Christmas. Couldn't agree more. So, let's talk about the Broncos. The Redskins.com called this a complete victory. Would you agree, Steve? Why don't you let us know what went down stat-wise?
Well, I don't know if I'd call it a complete victory. I'd call it a victory.
Well, the Redskins called it a complete victory. You're right. That's kind of a biased source, I guess.
I'm not even sure I agree with that, but here are the stats. Kirk Cousins was 19 for 37, 299 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, quarterback rating of 94.3 on the day. As a team, we once again sucked it up at rushing, 29 carries, 87 yards, 3.0 yards per attempt. Samaje P. Ryan was 17 carries, 53 yards. We saw some Capri Bibbs action, which was good. He showed some promise, 7 carries, 26 yards. Leading receiver was Ryan Grant, 4 receptions, 85 yards. Josh Doctson, 2 receptions, 61 yards. James Crowder, 2 for 47. Vernon Davis, 2 for 42 and a touchdown. On the Denver Broncos side of the ball, Brock Osweiler again, which was good for us. 22 receptions on 38 attempts, 193 yards, 1 interception, quarterback rating of 60.5. Rushing-wise, they were 29 for 159 as a team, which was 5.5 yards per attempt. C.J. Anderson led the way, 16 carries, 88 yards. Devontae Booker also had a pretty decent day, 8 carries, 47 yards. From the receiving standpoint, Demaryius Thomas led the way, 4 receptions, 52 yards. C.J. Anderson, 7 for 45. Devontae Booker, 5 for 24. And it goes down from there. So that is stats, offensive stats for the week. What do we think about this game? It was a tale of two cities, in the immortal words of Dickens.
It was indeed. So you want to talk about, for the first week in probably a couple weeks, we had a really good defensive performance where they were able to hold the team to fewer points. So do you want to start talking Redskins defense?
Sure.
Let's do that. We also kind of talked about last week how this was going to depend on how well they could get the ball to their weapons, because they have great receiving weapons and a great running back, but not the greatest quarterback. So, yeah, how did you see that shake out, their offense versus our defense?
Well, Brock Osweiler stinks. He's not a good quarterback. He proved that.
I thought we were going to see Lynch this week, and I was wrong about that.
Yeah, it would have made more sense. I don't know. I would have played Lynch if it were me. Maybe Lynch is just terrible and just isn't even worth a back end of the season game that's pretty meaningless for the Broncos. But the primary thing here with this is Osweiler's terrible. Yeah. He missed in every way possible. He threw the 1 interception, which is a really bad interception. Defensively, we knew that Denver was going to rush a lot, right? We told you that in the game preview. They did rush a lot, but we didn't let them kill us. We didn't let them kill us throughout the game. I can handle 159 yards rushing when the quarterback is that terrible,
Yeah.
So, as in a nutshell, and the other thing is, they forced the Broncos to make mistakes. They had a bunch of turnovers. The Redskins were able to capitalize on the turnovers, which is another key to the game. They held Demaryius Thomas in check for the most part. He got some yards, but that was about it. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with all points above. Talk to me about Zack Vigil. By the way, this was our tackle leader this past week. When did he sign on with the team this year?
Well, Zack Vigil.
Do you remember?
Well, Zack Vigil was in camp. If you guys remember, he was one of the final cuts off the linebacking core, and then he came back when Compton went out, I believe it was.
Okay.
A few weeks ago. So he's been back. 3 weeks maybe. Don't hold me to that, but it's roughly 3 weeks.
Yeah, sounds about right. 14 tackles, 12 solo the other day. What do you see from him at linebacker in the future? Are you seeing major potential there? And are you seeing this as a long-term sort of guy, or is he just playing well at the end of the year in a dead season and where you can't read too much into it?
I think it's the latter. I mean, he's got some ability, but let's not mistake him for Lawrence Taylor, or anything like that. I mean, I'm glad he's here. He knows the scheme. The coaches like him. I think he's one of those guys they didn't really want to cut, but they had to cut him just from a numbers perspective. They're in training camp. He's going to get his shot, in the offseason to beat out one of these guys that are on the team now. We're going to see him in the offseason, but do I think he's wonderful? No. Certainly he was good enough yesterday, and he got a key fumble reception. So
exactly. Fumble recovery.
Recovery, yeah.
Yep. That was a great play, absolutely. Yeah, I thought he had a great game. Swearinger, I thought, had a great game. Preston Smith, obviously, had a good game. Yeah. I think this was just one of those where guys executed, showed up all around on defense. It was nice to see. It's a little too little too late, obviously, at this point. But we saw some good games all around.
Well, people have to remember that this Broncos offense is horrible. Yeah. They really lived up to their billing. This is, we're not playing, the greatest show on turf Rams here. Yes, we did well. I mean, I'm glad they did well. All you can do is play the team in front of you, but it's, we ought to not pat ourselves in the back too much because this is the Broncos we're talking about here.
That's totally fair.
You want to know something funny? Is that Zach Brown has been out for, 2 games now? He's still our leading tackler. Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, that's fantastic. I don't feel bad for giving him 9 game balls this year.
No, I don't either. I mean, he deserved
it. We got to keep talking about defense. I don't want to switch over to offense and derail us or anything, but I did want to say, in terms of the Broncos quarterbacks, I don't know what feed you were watching, but I did hear the announcers a couple times yesterday allude to Kirk Cousins in Broncos orange next year. Now, this is an audition for Kirk for the Broncos. What's your quick reaction to something like that?
My quick reaction is John Elway would be a moron for not trying to get him, considering who they have. I mean, Trevor Siemian, Brock Osweiler, Paxton Lynch, Kirk Cousins. Who would you rather have?
Yeah, exactly. It's a no-brainer. It is. And when people we constantly bitch about our quarterback situation, but my God, it could be worse. It could be Denver. I guess we'll see. If Kirk goes to Denver, then we really will have the worst quarterback situation in the league.
Oh, yeah. I mean, then we're down to who? Colt McCoy as a, possible 1 or 2 year fill-in. I think Colt could do it. I don't think he's going to be great, but I think he could faithfully execute the offense at least, and he's not going to be any worse than, Ryan Fitzpatrick or some garbage like that.
We are rocketing back towards the Rex Grossman era of Redskins history right now. Rocketing past at a high velocity.
Hopefully it gets resolved before the draft. Let's not let it drag on out and out and out. They have to get it resolved before the draft so they know if they need to go get a quarterback, at least.
That's all I really want for Christmas is clarity on who the hell is going to be taking snaps next year.
Too late for that. It's already Christmas Day. And,
you're right. I'll take a belated gift, Steve. It's all good. Okay, let's keep talking about defense. What else did you see that stuck out defensively? Again, this was probably one of our better showings defensively, although, again, that's probably due in large part to the offense. But still, we were able to execute at least a little bit better this week.
You didn't see any huge major mistakes from the secondary. They had a pretty good game. Demaryius Thomas didn't, run wild. None of their receivers ran wild, and they do have some talent. It didn't hurt that Emmanuel Sanders was out.
Right. That certainly
because he's
makes
a little
things
bit
easier.
more of a weapon, maybe. But again, all you can do is play who's in front of you. So I thought the secondary did well. I thought Ryan Kerrigan, showed up. We didn't do defensive stats here, but Kerrigan had 2 sacks on the day, important sacks. In the end, as you said, let me just do some tackle stats here. As you said, Zack Vigil led the way, 14 tackles. Montreal Spate, 8 tackles. Preston Smith, 5 with another 2 sacks. Josh Norman had 5 tackles. Kerrigan was 4 tackles, 2 sacks. Swearinger, Everett, Breland, Harvey Clemens had 4 tackles. And I wanted to read all that so I could get to Junior Gillette, who was 3 tackles, 2 solo, who had some others. He had 2 good quarterback hits yesterday, got some good pressure. I think Junior Gillette is a guy who we probably want to bring back if the money works out. Maybe I'm being biased, but I think he's really come on in the second half of the season.
I'd agree with that. Like you said, it all comes down to whether or not the money's right. This is another one of those guys who's a little bit older, who's got some questions about his productivity. He's coming on at the end of the season, but how much does that really mean? I think a couple guys are in a similar position to that right now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they are. But and Gillette has said, I don't blame him. He wants to make some money. You can't blame him for that. But I think the Redskins should offer him a decent contract. I would be comfortable offering him a 2 or 3 year deal, I think. He's got some explosiveness that we're really lacking on the edge. Preston Smith, yes, he had a good game last week finally. But he disappears. He goes long stretches, like weeks at a time.
Anything.
Yeah, where you don't hear anything from him. And he's a different type of player than Gillette. They need a guy like Gillette who has speed off the edge, who can really get to the quarterback, turn the corner and get to the quarterback. And I don't know if he's back to 100% like he was when he was with New Orleans, but right now he's the only one we have that can really do that.
Yeah. Oh, you can't just cut that, without thinking about it. I think that's certainly something to consider.
Yeah.
Let's keep talking. Let's talk some more, a little big picture. So the Broncos did not play well on offense at any point. I think we can all safely say that. They did bumble some of their own opportunities away. Could have done a little bit better than they did. One thing the Washington Post points out is that play where Isaiah McKenzie, the Broncos, gets a pass, cuts it inside instead of running out of bounds, costs them a field goal at halftime. So, they made a couple mistakes as well. It was not mistake-free football for Denver, which certainly helped us out in a major way. Would be taking too much, I guess the question is, from this, if we were to say, oh, the defense is playing so much better here at the end of the year. Like, are we reading too much into it? Are we giving them too much credit against the struggling Broncos team? Yeah.
Yes. Again, all you can do is play the team in front of you, but there's a difference between playing the 13-2 Philadelphia Eagles or the Patriots and the Denver Broncos. This is a very injured team. Don't misunderstand me. I'm happy we won. I'm happy the defense stepped up and stopped and played well against the Broncos. I'm happy for that. But I don't know if I want to read too much into this other than it's a W. It's a W just like the Seattle game. Right. I'm happy about that. But, if you're talking about auditions for next year, we talked about two of the ones that really stuck out, obviously, Vigil and Gillette. I don't know what to make of Preston Smith. We already talked about him. Martrell Spate, I think, has improved over the past couple weeks. And thank God, because he's been one of our only healthy linebackers all year. I think Kendall Fuller.
Right.
I think Kendall Fuller has improved tremendously over last year. He's been good in the past several weeks. I think Josh Norman, Bashaud Breeland have looked better. Again, though, we've played the Cardinals and the Broncos in the past 2 weeks, so I just don't know how much to read into it, except, this is what – here's how you can sum this up. These are teams Redskins were supposed to beat, and they did beat them.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
We have seen in the past where this team plays down to its level of competition and ends up losing these games. They'll go win in Seattle, and then they'll lay an egg against the Broncos.
Right.
And they didn't do that. So, that's a good thing. I'm not going to get too excited over it, except a win is a win is a win.
Sure. One other thing I'd like to point out, and I think this is something Jamal would say if he was here with us today, but and maybe this is actually even a good transition over to offense, but one thing I think that you saw today was, at least at one point, you actually capitalized on a turnover once and got a score off of it.
Yeah.
So you get a turnover, you get the ball, and instead of just coughing it up immediately right back to the other team, you actually capitalize and put some points away. That's something the Redskins can't do generally, even when they get turnovers, especially this year. You saw that in this game. It was great to see. That's the kind of thing that you're going to need to replicate next year if you're going to win. You got to take advantage of the opportunities. I think that's something Jamal's always pounding home to us.
Well, and we said that in the game preview, if you recall, Sean, too. We told you guys that the reason the Broncos are losing these games is, number one, they just don't play well on the road. And number two, despite their number one ranked defense, in terms of yardage, they've given up their turnover ratio was horrible. They've put their defense in some bad positions by turning the ball over deep in their own territory. And that's exactly what happened yesterday. That's exactly what happened yesterday. Brock Osweiler fumble, in Denver territory. Brock Osweiler interception. Both of those, of the 3 turnovers, the Redskins converted 2 of those into touchdowns.
Yeah,
that's the difference in the
you need to
game.
do.
That's what we told you that the Redskins were going to need to do, and they actually did it. They did it. So
lo and behold, they pulled it off.
Yeah.
Well, let's switch over to. Is there anything else on defense you want to call out specifically before we switch over?
The only thing I like to say is just because I know there's a cult of Fish out there. Fish Smithson got some action. A lot of you guys have been dying to see Fish Smithson all year. I'm convinced.
Who's dying for that?
Oh, you would just, Sean. You don't what curse is having to read our Twitter feed every day.
Nope.
There is a group of people out there who think Fish Smithson is the second coming of, Sean Taylor.
How does that happen? I don't know enough
part of
about
it
the guy
is-
to make a huge judgment, but how does that happen? How does the fan base latch on so much?
Part of it is he has a weird name.
Yeah.
That's part of it.
It is endearing.
He
You gotta
did
give it
show
to him.
some promise in training camp. You got to give him that. He showed some promise in the preseason. I think he's more of a true free safety than we have. Because the truth of the matter is, thank God for DJ Swearinger, right? But I think he's probably true. If you gave me true serum, I'd probably tell you I think he's a better strong safety and free safety. But
Yeah.
he's just the best player we have, and so we got to put him back there right now. So
Absolutely.
ideally, if you see a guy like Fish, who can develop to the point where, and he's clearly not ready, right? If he was, they would have activated him a long time ago. But if you can get him to the point where he can start, then you can maybe move DJ from a sort of a big picture, long-term standpoint to strong, and that may be a better team. That may be a better secondary. But I just wanted to bring up Fish because I know there's a group of you guys out there that just, are Fish Smiths and fanatics.
Yeah, so you folks just wait for the off season because more than likely we'll have some Fish news coming. In the off season. All right, cool. I don't have anything else to call out on defense. It was a nice performance to see for once, but it all hinged on obviously whether or not the offense was going to be able to take their opportunities and get some scores, and they did. Good job, Redskins. Nice to see. You totally blew up my season record prediction, by the way. That ship has now sailed, so thanks a lot, Redskins, for that.
I think I'm closest to I predicted 9-7.
Yeah,
so I
you
think
could very well be the one.
Yeah. Excuse me. Me and
bastard.
Mark Bullock. Because remember, if you recall, Bullock predicted 9-7 and then was horrified and disavowed his picks.
That's right. That's right. And look, he's going to be right. I forgot about that.
We got to get Bullock back on the show here in the next to review the season anyway with him. So we're going to have to bring that up. Yeah.
We'll have to do that, absolutely.
Offense.
Yes, let's talk about him.
I think you have to start with Kirk Cousins, to me.
Let's do it, man. 3 touchdowns. Let's do it.
Yeah, but, if you look at the first quarter, the man was 1 for 8 for 6 yards in the first quarter.
The whole we really essed the bed in the first quarter of this game.
And then at halftime, he was 8 for 19 for 97 yards. All of a sudden, he came alive and looked like Kirk Cousins in the second half. It didn't hurt that, one of the touchdown passes was a blown coverage on Josh Doxson. He literally walked into the end zone.
Yeah.
There for the last 2 yards. Didn't hurt, But for a while there, I thought we were going to see the return of Bad Kirk for four quarters, which didn't make me happy.
Yeah, instead what we saw, I feel like, was kind of a return of Kirk from last year, which was the Kirk that started really slow every game and came alive. This is kind of a thing that we have seen from Kirk frequently. I'm not saying this game is because of that. I'm just saying this is something we've seen from Kirk before in that he sometimes starts really slow and heats up a lot in the second half. This kind of reminded me of the old Kirk. This year, on the other hand, it's for most part he's been dead, kind of all game. Or he's played average kind of all game. But this reminded me more a little bit of last year. But yeah, he certainly came alive. We got the W. It was a commanding win. The Josh Doxson touchdown was beautiful. The Vernon Davis touchdown was beautiful. He had some good plays.
Well, think about, here's the thing. Like I said, at halftime he was 8 for 19 for 97 yards. Ended up 19 for 37. So while in the first half he was well below 500 completion percentage. In the second half, he actually went 11 for 18 for 202 yards. So things got noticeably better. 11 for 18 is more along the lines of what you would expect to see Cousins from a completion percentage standpoint. Excuse me. So he came alive for whatever reason. I think I guess we'll get to rushing later.
Let's save that.
I didn't think. I'm sorry, I'm coughing on you guys. I'm suffering here trying to get through this thing. Anyway, it just wasn't his half. It just wasn't his half. He missed high, he missed low, he missed long, missed every way he could possibly miss in the first half. And frankly, it really looked bad. Usually this Redskins team, historically this year they are better in the second quarter. The second half, they have died in some of these games, and this is the exact opposite happened here. I was, frankly, a little surprised that it happened that way. And by the end of the game, the Redskins were comfortably up. It would look like a rout, but that just wasn't what happened in the first half.
Right. No, it's a fair thing to point out. It's a caveat you have to mention. Sort of the tale of two halves in a way again.
Yeah, because if you look at the final score and you didn't watch this game, you would think, well, the Redskins rolled.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is, like we said before, is, two of these touchdowns came on short fields, thanks to turnovers by Denver. And then Cousins had the bad first half. And so really and truly, what looks like a blowout was nothing of the sort except when the team came alive late in the third and in the fourth quarter.
That's the thing, is everyone was talking about how boring and uninteresting and uninspired this game was through the first half, and it really was sort of a dead football game.
Yeah.
The second half brought it alive, but there's just nothing going on early in the game. I think it's worth pointing out, absolutely.
Let's talk about the running game, because, let's start with Capri Bibbs. Bibbs is a guy who showed some promise, I thought. He showed some speed. Clinton Portis pointed out in the postgame, because I was in airports and blah, 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 and so I was listening to 980. Clinton pointed out that Capri was actually running away from people. When he had his one long 13-yard run, and then he had a couple good receptions, the 121-yard reception. He shows more speed than a lot of these backs that we have. We've been missing this capability since Chris Thompson went out.
Right, and that's the thing.
Yeah, and so Capri, I think, fills a role. I think at a bare minimum, he's earned an off-season shot with the Redskins. Samaje just doesn't have that capability. He's just not a speed guy. I mean, I feel like I bash Samaje Perine every week. I don't really mean to. He kind of is what he is. He's a bowling ball. He's a short yardage guy to me. Yeah,
I mean, the thing about Bibbs, though, that I would ask you is what is his role in this team with someone like Chris Thompson already on the team? Because as you said, they're kind of filling the same role. They're kind of similar guys. He's great. He had a great play last week. I can't remember how many yards it was, but it was a lot on one play. But do you really have space and need for Capri Bibbs on this team with Chris Thompson on the team?
Well, I mean, Chris Thompson's hurt.
He is right now. I mean, obviously.
So right now, yes. And do we have him? Do we have a shot? Does he have a shot? Yes, because don't forget that the roster's expanded to 90.
Yeah, well, that's true.
And so he's going to get his shot in the off season.
Why ditch him if you don't have to?
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, why ditch him when he's at a bare minimum? He's earned that much.
Yeah,
assuming he stays healthy, which given the state of the Redskins running, let's hope he can make it through another game, because God knows what may happen. But at a bare minimum, I think you're going to see him on the 90, and then if he can beat out one of these guys, we'll see. It's not like the Redskins have a bunch of Hall of Famers in their, even when healthy, on their running back core.
Yeah, that's certainly not an issue. Yeah. Well, let's see. This is going to be an interesting offseason at the open competition we're going to have at certain position groups. I really can't wait to see what shakes out at running back. Although, as I say that, I probably can't wait to see what shakes out.
Well, I think they're going to draft somebody. I mean, maybe I'm wrong.
They have
to draft somebody. The only way they don't draft a high one is if they end up having to get a quarterback. But I mean, there's a couple good running backs out there. We're going to do a draft preview later, but it's not just Saquon Barkley. He's not the only name out there. There's 2 or 3 other backs that I think could be good for the Redskins and it would fit with what Jay Gruden wants to do. So we'll see. Receiving wise, I mean, it looks like maybe by default Josh Doxson and Jamison Crowder have become the 2 go-to weapons in the back half of the season.
Well, Doxson certainly got those targets that you were asking for. He had 13 targets or something this game.
He had
that's
13
more
targets.
what we wanted. We
Yeah,
wanted
but
to
you know
see
what
that.
the problem is? He had 13 targets and 2 receptions. That's a problem.
That is definitely a problem. You're right about that.
I can't honestly, and I can't blame the interception on him. He was the intended target for Cousins' interception in the end zone. It was a terrible pass. Should never have been thrown. He threw it into double coverage in the back of the end zone. It was just not a smart decision. By Cousins. He had another receiver kind of breaking he could have led and broken open in the right side of the end zone, right back inside of the end zone. It was probably a better target. I can't remember who it was. I can't honestly blame Josh for that, but he needs to catch more balls. 13 targets is awesome, but what's that?
Oh, God, I'm sorry. I've got one of those things where the sneeze, it's just like waiting on the peripheral, but it won't go. Okay, sorry. I mean, all of his whole production came from that one 48-yard reception.
Right.
Really, for Doxson.
At least he got the targets, so I mean, you can
Absolutely.
That's good.
That's turning a page and progressing for this team.
Maybe it's because we had another lack of other targets. Because don't forget, Robert Davis was ended up being in concussion protocol, and so you're down to Grant, Doxson, Crowder, and Brian Quick. And Brian Quick for some reason has faded into obscurity. I don't know what his deal is. He hasn't gotten targets all year long.
He has never gotten real significant playing time, it seems.
No.
I mean, let's see. So going down here, okay, so Grant probably would be the big one, although I don't know. How much do you want to say about Ryan Grant at this point in the season?
How much can you say about Ryan Grant?
Exactly. I don't know where to go with that. 85 yards, what a great game, 4 receptions.
Ryan Grant is he's a jag. Just a guy. I know the team loves him. I know his teammates love him. If you could watch him in interviews, he seems to be a great guy, a humble guy. He lacks the athleticism to be, I think, a big-time starter. He's I look at him as maybe the ultimate possession receiver.
Yeah.
At his ceiling. I think his ceiling is ultimate possession receiver. I still maintain his hands aren't quite as good as Jay Gruden thinks they are, but I've said that many times. We're going to see Ryan Grant back, but there's no doubt that this wide receiver core is going to be revamped one way or another in this offseason.
Yeah, I was just curious what you thought about him going into next year. Do you know what kind of contract he's on right now?
If you give me a second, I can tell you. I do know, again, I mean, we all know that Jay famously loves Grant, and the reason they love him is because of his work ethic. He does run good patterns. His problem is he just lacks the ability to separate. From an athletic standpoint. And so you're never going to have him be a big target, like maybe some of these other guys. So Grant
not a speedster.
No, he's not a speedster. Okay, Grant.
Fair enough.
Contract-wise, he's actually going to be a free agent.
God.
He had a 4-year contract signed in 2014. So this is his last year. So he's another one of the many free agents that this team has. So I think... I would assume that Jay, at a minimum, would advocate for him to be re-signed.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I would think so.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. He's not going to get a big contract, and he's not going to be a guy there's going to be a ton of competition for.
Yeah, he's not going to get a big contract anywhere, so
no,
should be easy to lock down.
No, offensively, we had a Jeremy Sprinkle sighting. He's been very quiet all year. The rookie tight end from Arkansas.
When did he join up again? That was like middle of the season, right?
Well, he's always been on the active roster.
Was he?
Yeah, I mean, he just hasn't gotten much playing time.
Yeah, until Reed, cleared
He has
the way.
a ways to go. I mean, I know Jamal loves him because he's got he's got a unique set of skills. I think he's got pretty decent pass catching ability, but he's big enough to maybe be an inline blocker. So, we may see more of Jeremy Sprinkle in the future.
Yeah, I mean, if he can block, that's 50% more than our tight ends can do right now than our other tight ends. All right, what else on offense do you want to call out here?
I'd like to call out Ty Nsekhe for having a pretty good game against Von Miller.
Awesome.
You know,
That's a good one.
Ty obviously started in place of the injured and now IR'd Trent Williams. Thank God they saved
Mercifully
Trent from
IR'd.
himself. Yeah, they saved
Exactly.
Trent from himself. But, you know, Kirk Cousins was not sacked. It could have been ugly. Von Miller's one of the best sack artists in the game. You know, and so they did well against him. So I like
He
to
didn't
call out
take any
Ty.
sacks? Really?
No, he didn't take any sacks.
Not a single one?
Not
Wow.
a single sack. He got
Awesome.
hit 5 times, but no
Some
sacks.
pressures.
Yeah,
Sure.
some pressures. So I like to give Ty and Secchi a hearty congrats on a decent game. I thought the offensive line, generally speaking, did a pretty decent job. You know, against Denver. You know, when it didn't. Denver's a big time defense in the right circumstance. So they did a pretty good job against the Denver Broncos this week.
Absolutely. Other things that we saw, Kirk had that one nice run for the first down at one point. It's the decisive play like that he can make at times that make me think twice about telling him to piss off. Basically, it wasn't a world-shattering play or anything, and it was only
He's not
going to
be. No one's going to mistake him for Michael Vick, but he.
No.
I think he's.
But he
more
can run
athletic.
decisively on a play or two if he needs to during a game, and a lot of quarterbacks can't do that.
Yeah, I think he's more athletic than you might give him credit for. He can, if he really has to. He's not Tom Brady. You know, he's not as utter statue who can't move. He does have some athletic ability, and he will scramble occasionally, and that's an example. You know, that play you're talking about was an example of it.
Well, and remember, he's been our leading rusher, you know, like half the year
Well,
at
that's
times.
that's
so.
pretty pathetic. That's not
Yeah.
something to brag about, Redskins. That's pretty sad.
Yeah, that's more an indictment on the rushing attack. That's true. Okay. What else do you want to call out, or should we go ahead and do these game balls and put the kibosh on this thing?
You know, I think if you could summarize this game offensively, it wasn't that they were great. They did have a good fourth quarter, but they took advantage of opportunities presented by the Denver Broncos, and that is something we haven't seen from this team this year. Yes, it was the Broncos. Yes, the Broncos are terrible on the road, but they were able to beat the team in front of them, and they were able to take advantage of these turnovers and convert these turnovers into touchdowns, and ultimately that is what was the difference in this game. And so
Absolutely.
congratulations to the Redskins for that. Jay Gruden pointed out in the post-game presser, you know, that 8-8 is important. 8-8's a big deal to me, at least. I think if those of you out there who are rooting for a loss just so they can move up from 14th to 15th in the draft order are crazy. That's ridiculous. Right. You know, less 8-8 means that. Listen, I mean, is this great? No, but it does mean that they will have avoided a losing record for the third year in a row. It's something. At least it's something to fight for. Yeah.
It's something. It's something, I'll tell you that. I mean, I always get caught up on the softball schedule that we've had the last few weeks, it seems, and we've certainly come up in the rankings for that.
Yeah.
Look, you got to win the games. You're right. We won the game, so it's as simple as that. Season may be over, but at least they're still playing. At least they're still showing some heart, which was a major concern with Gruden. I always have that concern with Gruden.
Well, people need to remember also that these players are playing for contracts, and the Redskins have a lot of them. You think Junior Gillette, for example, is going to quit? Junior Gillette wants to go all out because he wants to exhibit his skills for another team. A guy like Capri Bibbs, he doesn't know where he's going to be next year. Maybe the Redskins will let him go. You know,
that's a great point.
So these
but
guys have to play, and they have to do well no matter what.
In a way, that's depressing, though, because in a way, it's almost like they're auditioning for their future instead of
not
instead
almost.
Of playing.
That is what they are doing.
That is what they're doing. Yeah, I mean, so then you got to wonder, you know, okay, maybe I'm wrong. Then I'll back up my previous statement. Maybe Jay Gruden isn't owed anything for this win. It's really players playing for their futures.
You know what? He's the coach. He coached a victory. He deserves credit.
Yeah. No, you're right. Let's not overthink it. We'll leave it at that. You're right.
Yeah. All right.
They won the game. They needed to. They took the opportunities they had.
Right.
It is what it is. Okay, let's do game balls for the second to last time this season.
You want me to start? You went first last time.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to give the defensive game ball to Ryan Kerrigan.
Awesome.
He was a man on a mission, I thought, yesterday. He had the 2 sacks. He's had 11 sacks on the year, you know, which is an accomplishment. You know, he's been Mr. Consistency throughout his career. I don't think I've given Kerrigan a game ball all year. We really need to keep track of these game balls. By the way, just as an aside. But anyway, Kerrigan played well, so I thought he was deserving. There were a couple other guys. Honorable mention to Zack Vigil, obviously, and
Sure.
because he got the turnover and he was our leading sacker, tackler. Honorable mention to DJ Swearinger for getting the pick.
Absolutely.
But I thought Ryan Kerrigan on offense, it's a little bit tougher. Part of me wants to give it to Cousins by default, but I don't know. I mean, when you have as bad a first half as he did, I'm going to give the game ball to Capri Bibbs.
Okay.
Capri
Bibbs.
It's not like the guy showed that
26 yards.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like the guy showed he was the second coming of Barry Sanders. I realize that, but listen, he showed promise. He had a good reception. He showed he has some burst. So from an utter lack of someone else who I think is deserving, I'm going to give it to Capri.
No, I tease, but I actually like that pick. I think that's a good call. I see where you're going with that. For my picks, let's see. Defense, I'm really torn between Vigil and Swearinger. I like the Kerrigan pick too, obviously, but I'll try to be different. I'm going to give it to Vigil just because I haven't given it to one this year, and it only means so much. But hey, he had a good game. I'm going to give it to Vigil this week.
Yeah, they're not. These guys aren't like framing our game balls on their mantle.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Offensively.
Yeah, see, look, I mean, it's tough, isn't it? It's not like, there were a bunch of stars despite
there
the
weren't.
27 points.
Man, I don't know. Part of me wants to say Davis just because that was Doxson, I'm sorry, because that was a very pretty touchdown, but 2 receptions on 13 targets
Sean,
isn't game ball worthy.
And that touchdown, you could have scored. Okay?
I could have scored, exactly, yeah. It was a blown coverage. Okay, let's go to I'm going to give it to Grant. I'm going to give it to Grant. 4 reception on 6 targets,
Grant.
85 yards. He didn't get the score, but you know what? He's a tough, blue-collar journeyman guy. You earned it this week,
You got to
buddy.
appreciate that. You got to appreciate tough blue-collar journeyman types.
He's a lunch pail guy, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that concludes it. Anything else? Okay, here's what we could do, actually. What's your plans for Christmas, Steve?
Plans for Christmas.
Yeah, man.
Oh, God.
Tell the people what you got going on. Anything?
Well, just going to hang out with family, do that thing, do the kid thing.
Beautiful.
So, Christmas I'll be here, but Christmas, it's another Christmas, but, when kids like Christmas, it's always good. What about you?
So, as you may have noticed from the area around me, I have not gone anywhere for this Christmas because
I can see it, but the fans, listeners don't see it. I can see it.
This is the same living room I'm in every week. Yeah, so I was a little delinquent on buying my travel tickets this Christmas. So tickets were insanely priced by the time I looked. So I said instead planned my trip for next month. This Christmas is a bachelor Christmas, dude. Gonna get some beer, gonna get a 6-pack, watch some stupid movies. It's gonna be fun stuff, man.
Well, you know what? That's a good thing. As long as you're happy.
Yeah, man. Hey, to each his own. I'm kind of excited for bachelor Christmas. Maybe we'll make it a tradition.
Next time, hit pops up for the airplane ticket. Just saying.
Yeah, freaking flyer miles or something. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, we'll let y'all get back to your holidays with that. Hope you guys have a great one. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, whatever you're celebrating. We'll be back with you on the Hog Sty next time for
Final
our
game
final.
preview. Yeah.
That's right. This is the one. So we'll have to make it a big blowout bash. All right, folks. We'll see you next time.